Welcome to the Superconscious Success Podcast, where Jen and her Superconscious Success family co-hosts bring you valuable content each and every week on topics relating to manifestation, spirituality, and most of all, using your superconscious to manifest success in all areas of your life. Now on to today's episode.
Hey there, Superconscious Success fam. Just before we get into the interview, this is just a brief message. This is actually a recording of the 2021 Superconscious Success Summit interviews. If you do want to check out the introductory for all of the guests, then you can go across to our Superconscious Success YouTube channel where you'll be able to find all the introductions. These particular podcast interviews will be the interview only. Okay, thank you. Now let's get on to the interview. Hey there, welcome to the Superconscious Success Super Summit. I am so excited to have you here for this 40-day transformational summit where we are going to provide you with one talk every single day for 40 days on the topic of spirituality, manifestation, changing those limited beliefs, dealing with your emotions, figuring out your purpose and your passions, looking at how you can become a spiritual entrepreneur, and then listening to amazing, incredible individuals that have gone through adversity in life that has changed the whole direction of their lives, but where they have actually been able to pull themselves up and be able to move on and thrive. I am so excited to have you with us. As I'm doing this summit a little bit differently to what a lot of people would be doing, and I'm actually making it an audio summit, which means that through the Superconscious Success podcast, you're actually able to listen to one episode every single day. You will have unlimited access to that, absolutely free, and you'll be able to go back and listen as many times as you want. And I think that you are really going to get a lot of benefit from this. If you would like to see the videos, then you can get a 7-day free pass to all of the interviews that I have done for this particular summit, and including my keynote speeches as well. And then all you have to do is go to superconscioussuccesssummit.com and register. And then once you've registered, then you'll get 7-day free pass to that. If you decide to upgrade to the all access pass, not only will you get lifetime access to all of these videos, but you'll get some amazing bonuses and specials and prizes and Q&A sessions and all sorts of amazing stuff with some of our speakers. So there's lots of different ways that you can absorb this content. I am really excited to have you here. And I know that by the end of this summit, you are going to be on your journey to transforming yourself, to becoming more spiritually aligned and start to manifest with ease. You'll start to notice changes in how you're feeling, changes in your emotions, changes in maybe some of the belief systems that you're holding on to. And then there will be plenty of resources that you can go to afterwards that will allow you to really expand on that. Superconscious Success, as you will see in just a little bit as I go into my story, is about connection, which is why I have actually titled this particular keynote, The Power of Connection. And that is because it is something I'm passionate about and it is so incredibly important. So there are going to be plenty of resources for you, plenty of different ways for you to be able to expand and advance your knowledge. I have 6 summits every single year with Superconscious Success. I have one coming up on health and wellness and healing, and that's going to be at the end of May. I've got an incredible one in July, which is on conscious parenting. If you're a parent, that is an amazing one to go to. I have one on manifestation. I have one on spiritual entrepreneurship. And I have one on spirituality towards the end of the year, which is going to delve deep into spirituality and get you really set up for 2022. So there's lots on offer here, but now it's time to get into our keynote talk where I'm going to be talking about the power of connection. So when I decided what I was going to talk about for this very first keynote, I pondered over what it was I was going to speak about. Should I talk about something that's really exciting, like how you can bring massive amounts of money into your bank account with ease? Or should I talk about maybe a 10-step process to something? Well, I pondered over that and I connected with Source and I meditated on it. And it came to me that what I was called to talk about was the power of connection. Now, as I really delved into my own value system and I delved into what was important to me, I realized that one of my deepest values is that of connection. And so, what better thing to talk about than that of connection? And as I actually wrote up my keynote speech, I started to learn even more about myself and about why maybe I've been in the situation that I've been throughout my life, and why maybe I've had the sort of friendships that I've had, and I've been through the experiences that I've been through, and there are very, very real purposes for that. And I'm going to go into that as I tell you my story now and how I came to be doing what I'm doing now. But before we go into that, let's just ask, what is connection? It's kind of a vague word that means something different to so many different people. To me, connection is really about an emotional bond to something or someone that produces an outpouring of love and gratitude. It's about coming together with like-minded people that have similar desires that they're wanting to fulfill in their life. So I want to ask you a simple question. What does connection mean to you? As you answer that, you'll be able to listen to this talk and really start to put things together that will help you to discover what your level of connection is with different people in your life and what your connection is with Source. So I'll start off this presentation by going a little bit into who I am and why I came to create Superconscious Success and everything that goes along with it. So here goes. Now, for those that don't know, as I said, my name is Jennifer Matthews and I am a naturopath and I'm a spiritual life coach all the way from Perth, Australia. I have two amazing teenagers and I have a wonderful scientist for a husband, not to mention our two beautiful dogs. Now, I grew up in an amazing household with two very supportive parents and one incredible brother. Now, we came from the country and we spent much of our life actually traveling from Aboriginal community to Aboriginal community because my parents were actually like the CEO of the community, so they kind of handled all of the administrative stuff. Now, as such, I grew up doing a lot of homeschooling and a lot of school of the air, which meant I didn't have a lot of connection with people of the same age as me. Now, when I started to go to places where I did have school or I did connect with people of my own age, I found that because we were constantly shifting all the time, I would make new friends. And then those friends would disappear very quickly because I'd have to say goodbye. And I realized very early on that it hurt to say goodbye all the time. So I started to distance myself from them. But one thing I did learn going from community to community was the value of connection in terms of the different types of people and the different types of culture that we can become connected to. I started to realize that it's all about us being one, us being united. I've always believed that there is no separation between people. That's something I've learned from very early on. But that doesn't say that I haven't been through some serious adversity in my own life and experiences that I'm going to share. But I do realize, as I said before, that those experiences were necessary for my growth and my development and to be the person that I am today and to have the passion to teach others about the power of connectedness and connection. So, like I said, we grew up in Aboriginal communities doing School of the Air, doing homeschooling. And so I also grew up without a solid foundation of friendship. I never had a one group of friends. Like my husband, he grew up in the same household until he was 23 years old. So he had the same group of friends at primary school, the same group of friends at high school. I didn't have that. We moved from place to place, which meant that I would make some friends and I would have to say goodbye. It caused incredible heartache for me. And I found that it was because it was so hard, I started to put up blocks around me. I started to protect myself, which meant that I wasn't able to form those solid friendships because I didn't want to get hurt. And so what I did was when kids that were
my age, you know, you're looking at 8, 9, 10, we're out playing in the streets. That's what you're supposed to be doing at that age. I was actually down at the local store or down at the local school or having other experiences that allowed me to not have to connect with people of my own age, to not have to connect with other people that I was going to have to say goodbye to. I didn't want that hurt. I didn't want that heartache. So what I started doing was connecting with people that were older, who were then obviously more acquaintances. So I didn't get so close that it hurt when I had to say goodbye. Now, when we got to high school, my parents, being the amazing parents that they are, decided now was the time for us to settle down, and so that my brother and I could have a solid foundation for high school and we were able to focus. And that was all well and good. My brother did fine. Myself, on the other hand, at that point, I was actually, never realized at the time, but I'm actually an introvert myself, what they call an outgoing introvert. And so it really makes you withdraw within yourself. And at the same time, I'm actually an empath. So that was something else that I struggled with during high school. But when I went to high school, because I didn't have that solid foundation of friends growing up, that group of primary school kids that I could go into high school with, I was left very alone. And remember, I didn't have the resources and I didn't have the knowledge or the understanding as to how kids my age were supposed to act. So I had a very, very hard time making friends. And because of that, the friends that I attracted were not of the best quality. So those that I thought were really close friends started to spread nasty rumors about me at school. They deliberately conspired to get me lunchtime rubbish duty. And then they also started to talk about me behind my back. On top of that, I had the other kids that would bully me to the point that I spent a great deal of my time in the counsellor's office, all pretending to be sick so that I didn't have to go. Now, I loved school. Like high school, I loved it. I loved the schoolwork. I loved the whole concept of it. But I couldn't wrap my head around the kids, and I couldn't form a solid group of friends that I could really trust and I could really rely on. And because of this lack of connection with the kids, it caused me really great angst. Now, this lack of connection went both ways. They weren't able to connect with me and I wasn't able to connect with them. But at the same time, I didn't understand why. I was too young. I didn't understand why this was happening. But because of my very low vibration, because of this, it was just bringing in more of the nastiness and more of the fear and more of the anxiety. And as we know, like attracts like. So unless you learn to deal with those emotions and those belief systems and everything else, then you're just going to keep repeating the process over and over again. Now, when I got to the end of year 10, I sat down with my counsellor in absolute tears, explaining to her that I just couldn't do it anymore. At this point, my self-esteem was so lowered that I began to believe that I was the issue, and I started to doubt myself. However, within myself, I knew that there was something better out there. And I was determined that now that I was officially able to leave school, because in Australia you can leave at the end of year 10, that I was going to find out. So I spoke to my counsellor and I spoke to my parents, and we decided at that point the best thing for me was to leave school and to go to TAFE. And TAFE in Australia is college. So I decided to go and do my advanced diploma in business administration, and had an incredible time because I was actually relating and interacting with people that were a lot older than me. In terms of, I mean, when I say a lot older, anyone from, I don't know, 19 all the way up to 35. So they were sort of like, there was that big age gap, but I found that my maturity level was very, very similar to theirs, because remembering, I grew up starting to work at the age of 8. My parents actually left home to work in Aboriginal communities when I was 16 years old. Myself and my brother lived in our family home where we lived when we went to high school. My grandparents were just up the road, so they knew that we were looked after, but we were responsible for handling all of the bills, for handling all the food, cooking for ourselves, etc., from the age of 16. So you've got to remember that my maturity level was at a different level at that stage. Now, a great realization came to me after I actually started TAFE, and I started something known as Rally Australia, which is actually car racing. And I started dating a guy from Rally who was in the final year of high school. And I decided to meet him at school during the lunch break one day. And I looked around at all the kids there, and I started realizing that I had absolutely nothing in common with them. And I realized we're in a completely different vibration, which was the reason why we couldn't connect. I realized even at that time that we could only work with what we knew at that point in time. So they weren't to blame for that. But that's not to say that it didn't hurt. And that's not to say that it didn't take me years to get to the point where I forgave them for everything that they had done, which, by the way, I've done now. And I'm actually friends with a number of them on Facebook. And I've spoken to a number of them since, realizing that we all advance and we all grow, at least if we allow ourselves to. So if we learn to forgive, forgiveness is a very high vibratory emotion. Unforgiveness is very low. And in order for us to connect with our higher self, it is very important that we forgive those that have hurt us, because we have to remember they only know what they know. And so, yeah, so forgiveness was a big part of that. Now, after that, I progressed beautifully. So as I said, my parents left home when I was 16. I grew considerably in my maturity and my responsibility, everything else that was going on. And then I met my husband when I was 18 years old. We had moved across to Germany because my husband's a scientist. He had to do his postdoc in Germany, moved to Germany. I had my son in Germany. We moved back. I had my daughter here. Then we moved to Melbourne. And then we came back to Perth after my husband's father passed away. Now, after moving back to Perth, I worked in the naturopathic field. And then one day I woke up and I realized that naturopathy and nutrition, all that, as much as I was super passionate about it, it wasn't my real passion anymore. It wasn't what I felt was my purpose. So I loved health, and I still planned on it being part of my life and me helping people with it. But I didn't feel that that was where I was called to be. So this is when I started my Living Your Intentions podcast and brand, and I interviewed experts from all over the world on the topic of mindset. And this was incredible. And during this time, I actually managed to change my mindset and begin to heal my Hashimoto's thyroiditis autoimmune thyroid condition. I devoted a lot of time to meditation, and during this time I actually went through my awakening, where I really delved into spirituality. And I woke up one morning and Source hit me on the head again and said, your purpose is actually in teaching people how they can expand their consciousness and how they can connect with their superconscious. And I was super excited because I had finally heard the voice that I had been longing to hear, and that was that of my higher self. So then Superconscious Success was born, and this is something that I am super passionate about, and this is something that is my purpose and my life mission, is to help people to expand their consciousness, to become one, to recognize that there is no separation, to connect with their higher self, with their superconscious, and to just live the best life that they possibly can, to manifest with ease, to not live a life full of fear and dread and anxiety. This is my purpose in life, to help them connect to the divine, to help you to recognize your power and your potential and everything that is possible for you. And that is my purpose here. And I plan to do that through Superconscious Success, plus the other brands that I'm building under the Empowered Wellness Network. That's my primary company, which has got Superconscious Success under it, plus a host of other ones. But Superconscious Success is my baby, which is devoted to really helping you to build your spirituality, build your manifestation, and really discover who you are. You know, not to become codependent on people, become really in your own. And I am really excited about this. I have big visions for Superconscious Success. And in 10 years' time, I plan on having Superconscious Success academies all throughout the world. So there's big visions here. And I really want you to become a part of this. I really want you to become part of the family so that we can build this together. and we can really start to expand that consciousness of the planet. Everyone is welcome, and everyone can become part of the Superconscious Success family. And I welcome you across there. Now, that's my personal story. Now, to learn a bit more about it, if you want to, then I'm actually going to create a new Power of Connection course. And I apologize, but the idea to do this was actually a download that I got from Source whilst I was writing my keynote talks, which means I haven't prepared it yet, but it will be available for the All Access Pass absolutely free in the next month or so. And if not, if you don't have the All Access Pass, that is completely fine, because I will also have it on the Superconscious Success Academy website within the next 2 to 3 months, where you can actually purchase the course through there. Now, if you'd like to hear more of my stories, I also have a keynote presentation towards the end of this summit, which is called On the Brink of Death. And this describes, I know it sounds really morbid, but it describes how I actually came close to death a couple of times in my life, and how my connection with Source has really allowed me to push through what I was dealing with. And that's going to be a really incredible talk for you to listen to, and to understand how your connection with Source can really help you in any situation. Trusting in Source, believing in Source, letting go, and just surrendering is the key to living that life of flow and ease. And you're going to learn a lot more about that as we keep going through this keynote presentation. So what I really want to talk about as we go through this talk, now that you've heard my story, is about how we can connect to that higher part of ourselves, how we can connect to Source, because it's this connection that will actually allow us to live the life of our dreams with absolute flow and absolute ease. Now, I want to make something really clear before we progress through this. And I want to let you know that I am speaking purely from a spiritual standpoint. Okay, I'm not speaking from a religious standpoint, which means that anybody can come and join us, because everybody is spiritual. Every single one of us, no matter what our religion is, has a spirit within us. So no matter what you call Source, this presentation is going to be useful. So let's get straight into it. Who is our higher self? How does this part of us help us to manifest the life of our dreams? And why is it so important the connection with our higher self is made? So connecting with this part of us allows us to live in a state of flow and ease. And there is nothing like it once you get to this state. Our higher self, that's also known as our superconscious, is the part of us which is pure love. It is an intelligence that exists, and it's the highest intelligence that exists. And it can be known by many different names. It can be known by things like infinite intelligence, universal consciousness, the collective unconscious, the oversoul, the universal mind, the divine Source, and by some people, even God. Now, you'll hear through my 3 keynotes that I will use all of these terms, predominantly the divine, Source, superconscious, and higher self. I'll use interchangeably. When I use these terms, remember they all mean exactly the same thing. Now, with the superconscious, everything you could possibly ever want to know about the universe is stored within the superconscious. And all of that information, knowledge, which is handed down, can be accessed by everybody on the planet. So what are the benefits to being connected with your higher self? And how will you know if you're connected? Well, this is a really, really good question, because to answer this, I'm going to get a little bit technical with you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about 3D reality. When I talk about 3D, I'm talking about the illusions and the ego, because this brings us around to discussing connections, and it also brings us down to discussing how our ego can really get in the way of our connection with the superconscious. So as humans, we actually live in a 3D reality where everything is ego-based. We use our 5 senses to determine everything that exists around us. We look at what's in front of us, and we believe that what we see is in fact real. So we look at our bank accounts and we believe that to be real. Whereas in actual fact, what's happened is where we are financially, health-wise, relationally, is actually a result of our previous past beliefs. And in order to be able to change this, we need to also change our belief system. And we will go into that a little bit later. And you'll also hear a lot of talks throughout this summit as to how you can start to do that. Now, you've got to understand that what we see is merely an illusion based on where we are vibrating at that particular point in time. there are a number of experiments, including Schrodinger's cat experiment, which shows that the focus that you place on something actually determines the outcome. Now, obviously, I don't have time to be going into this throughout this keynote, but if you would like to learn more about the experiment and other experiments that have been done regarding quantum physics, then I'm actually going to put that within the Power of Connection course that I'm going to be creating. And it's going to be really, really interesting. So definitely go along and grab your copy or sign up for the All Access Pass or whatever, just to get access to it, because you'll be able to really delve in to connection with source, and also how you can use these principles to connect with other people. Now, the amazing thing is that once you begin to understand the ego, then all of the fear starts to dissipate. The ego is the part of us that looks outside of ourselves, and it interprets the world that's around us based on our five senses: what we see, what we hear, what we touch, all of that. It bases it on our five senses. So our ego, we may watch the news and we may become fearful because of something that we've seen, or it may take some of your beliefs and interpret it as being true. Now, our ego lives in a state of fear, always on the lookout for something being wrong, and always in a stage of self-protection. The goal of the ego is simply to separate us from our higher self or from source so that it can survive. So how does it do this? It's important to understand that our ego believes that power, understanding, and truth actually lies in separation, which is completely opposite of what our higher self believes. Our higher self knows that there is no such thing as separation. We are all one. There is such a thing as unity, where we are all one collective consciousness. Our ego will start to look at our beliefs and attack everything that it perceives by breaking it into small, disconnected parts, ensuring that we separate from source at the same time. It'll focus on error and it'll overlook truth. So I guess you could say that everything outside of the realm of love and peace is the work of your ego. Now, our higher self knows nothing except love. It knows that we are perfect the way that we are. We are all one in the united consciousness, that we are here for the purpose of fulfilling our life mission and doing our part to help expand the consciousness of this planet. Now, prior to moving from the non-physical realm to the physical realm, because we are all eternal beings that are on a quest to grow and to evolve, and for our soul to grow and evolve and learn the lessons that we need to learn. So when we moved from our non-physical to our physical, and we made that decision, then we also our soul created certain contracts and life plans to dictate what lessons we are going to learn throughout that life. And then we put on this plane of existence to experience. We are put here to live all the life experiences that we could so that we can evolve and we can grow. And we're put here to have a great time. But unfortunately, our ego gets in the way and we start to bring in fear and worry and anxiety. And we forget, because when we put on this plane of existence, we are made to forget so that we can learn the lessons and we can evolve and we can grow. So because we've forgotten, we experience all of these emotions until we get to the point where you have your awakening and you start to recognize that source is there looking after you every step of the way. But before we come down, we complete those soul contracts. And I've actually got an amazing talk within this summit by another lady called Amanda Farrar, who is going to be talking about soul contracts. And we've got another one that's going to be talking about soul language. And we have got really in-depth conversations about the soul and spirit and how we all evolve as souls. So once you start to actually see life as a game and you start to work from the space of your superconscious as opposed to your ego, then fear melts away and instead you're left with love, joy, abundance, fulfillment, creativity, flow, and ease. You start to become clear on what it is that you're put on this earth to do, and no longer will you hustle your way with your business trying to master success. Instead, you'll learn to listen to the voices of your superconscious, of source, and take that inspired action, knowing that the action that you're taking will actually move you towards your ultimate purpose. Now, don't get me wrong, I still hustle. but only when I'm inspired to do so. And I only ever work when I'm in a state of high vibration. So why is vibration so important? Well, because the only time that you're truly able to connect to source is when you're in a high vibratory state, because that's where the divine lives. Remember that with unconditional love being one of the highest vibrations that you're able to achieve, in order for you to hear the messages from source, you need to be in the vicinity of the divine. Because like vibrations attract like vibrations, as you know, with the law of attraction. Now, this doesn't mean that you can never be in any of the lower states, because we are all human. And until you get to the state of the awakening, where you begin to really connect with source on a deeper level, you will start to fluctuate with those emotions and those vibrations as you begin to learn to change your vibratory set point. And so it's important that when you see yourself getting down to those vibrations, that you try to lift yourself back up as quickly as possible. Because I'll tell you, once you're in that flow state where everything is just happening for you, all of these, what I call downloads, start coming to you. When I'm sitting here and I'm creating my courses and I'm figuring out stuff for the summits and I'm writing my keynote presentations and everything else, I'm not doing it. I am simply a vehicle for which the divine is coming through. The divine wants to get these ideas and these answers and this knowledge out to you. But in order to do that, it needs a vehicle to do it. And so us as light workers are purely people that are put here to help bring these messages to you. So once you start getting to that point, you have no fear, you have no worry. You know that the source has your back. You start to trust in source. You start to surrender with source. You start to go, you know what? Everything is fine and everything is flowing. Synchronicities start to happen. You start to meet incredible people. You start to collaborate with people. Money starts rolling in. You don't have to worry about it. You have incredible relationships. You find that your relationships that are around you will start to really evolve. What you may find sometimes as you start to go through an awakening, those people that do not serve you anymore will start to drift off, because you'll be of a different vibration to what they are. But that is perfectly fine, because it's all part of the transformation process and it's only for your higher good. But that is something that that is incredible, is that you don't have to worry about it. We are not put on this earth to worry. We are put on this earth to experience. And think of life as a game. Think of it as you being on a Monopoly board, playing this game and just having a great old time. What am I going to do today? You script out what you're going to do. What does your perfect day look like? What are your goals? What is your life vision? Make them as big as you possibly can. We have some incredible talks throughout this summit on how you can actually set goals that are going to be massive without being scared, without being fearful. There is so many incredible talks in this summit, and I think you're going to get a lot of benefit from every single one of them. So look, this has gone on for a long time, this keynote. I hope that you have gotten a lot of benefit out of it. And before we actually finish up this keynote, I want to go into some things that you can actually do to help you connect with source right now, to help you connect with your higher self. It takes practice. It takes you really putting in some effort. But once you do, you are never going to look back. So the first thing I want you to say, okay, let's just dance, okay? We're going to do some dancing. We're going to listen to some music. We're going to have fun, and we're going to stay in joy, and we're going to do whatever really lights you up. Okay, if you like to go out and go for a nice walk in nature, do that. If you like to go out, I love going for walks in nature and looking at the butterflies, because the butterflies are a symbol to me that the world is right. They come to me, and especially if I'm feeling a little bit lower in vibration, they come to me and it automatically lifts me up. Do something that you love. If you love to dance, then you dance and do not care what anybody thinks. If you love to sing, then sing, and it doesn't matter if your voice sounds horrible, because mine does. But do whatever makes you happy. Do whatever keeps you in joy, because that is the highest vibration that the divine is called to. When something happens, okay, this is tip number 2. When something happens, try to change how you react to it and how you respond to it. So are you living from what your higher self is seeing, or are you living from what your ego is seeing? For a very long time, I based my reactions to how I reacted to something on other people's belief systems, which is absolutely ridiculous. But at the same time, so many of us do it. Oh, what's such and such going to think if my belief system's different? And so you need to start to, before you actually react to something, think about what your belief is. Think about whether it's actually coming from outside of you or whether it's coming from within you. And then rather than react, really sit on it and think about it, because remember that words are very powerful, and sometimes we can get ourselves into a state of negativity when we really don't need to. So how you react to something is very, very important. I've gotten to the state now that if somebody's in a bad mood or is in a bad place, and I know that it is not because of me. I know that it is not something I have to deal with. It's something that they have to deal with. And being an empath, I've had to protect myself in many ways, because you take on a lot of the emotions of other people. So, and that's something else that I'm going to talk about, and maybe even create a course on, is how to deal with it if you are an empath. And that's just something that's just come to me now. So keep an eye out if it is something that you may be looking at. I don't know whether it'll be a video series or whether it'll be YouTube, I'm not sure, but it's something I do really want to speak about. But so it's really important when something happens, think about how you react to it. Third, and I've spoken about this, practice the art of forgiveness. Forgiveness is incredibly, incredibly important. Now, I have a really great interview on the summit, which is actually on from one lady called Ramya Pillai, and she actually talks about manifesting with the moon. Now, I'm a massive moon manifester, so I love to go out on the new moon, and I love to go out on the full moon and do my rituals, and I have my meditation cushions, and I have my candles and everything else, and I sit out under the moon. My dogs come and lick me at the same time, but and so I sit out under the moon, and then on the full moon, which is when you let go of things, I write down everything I have to let go of that month, and then I burn it, and that actually releases it to source. That actually releases it so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Write down everybody that you're needing to forgive. Write down, and a lot of it can be forgiving yourself for something. Guilt and shame are two of the lowest vibratory emotions, and they're ones that you really do not want to be focused on. So let go of it. Remember, you are human, you'll make mistakes. Remember that your higher self knows you are perfect and does not judge you. So get rid of that guilt, get rid of that shame, and start to practice the art of forgiveness. Number 4, identify and release those limited beliefs that are holding you back. Really delve into the belief systems as to, what do you believe about money? What do you believe about relationships? What do you believe about health? Go through all of these different areas as to what you believe about, and then start to release them. Recognize which ones really make sense and which ones don't. So I've got many stories as to how my money mindset became very limited for a long period of time because of things that happened in my past. And these are things that you'll find throughout some of my different content that I put out there. I'll have my stories strewn throughout it. But yeah, it's very important that you identify and you release those limited beliefs as you go through life. Throughout the limited beliefs and emotion segment of this summit, you're going to hear some incredible interviews that are going to teach you exactly how to do that. Now, number 5, start practicing gratitude. Every morning you need to practice gratitude and figure out exactly what you're grateful for. Everybody has something to be grateful for. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, you have something to be grateful for. Whether it's the fact that you can walk, the fact that you can see, the fact that you can hear, it doesn't matter as long as you find stuff to be grateful for. If you want more information on gratitude, one of my incredibly close friends, David Brooke, has got an incredible talk on gratitude throughout this summit. Excuse me. Number 6, live in the moment. Stop focusing on the past or the future. Let's focus on today. Let's focus on what's right in front of us. Let's really live every moment, because there is no such thing as the past and there is no such thing as the future. So we need to live in the present, and we need to, as we go through, and what you'll discover throughout this summit, and by the end of it you would have discovered this, is that we need to act as if, we need to start acting like the person that we want to become. Be that person now, and that person will become your reality. So there's lots of different aspects to this, and I'm really excited because I got all of this information that I'm wanting to get out there, and I'm going to really be working hard over the next 12 months to do that. Now we got number 7, start to surrender. Let go of it. Trust the universe, trust in source, and surrender. If something is worrying you, let it go. Send it to source and say, please fix this for me. And it will happen. You've got to trust in source and surrender to source. Begin to let go of negative emotions. Begin to let go of any past hurts or suffering that have happened, because as long as you remain in that state, you remain in a low vibration and your connection with source is limited. And finally, my number one pastime, and you can ask my family, sometimes I'm doing it 2 or 3 hours a day, is meditation. And I love it. It gets me in a deep connection with source. And when you're in meditation, you're not in resistance. When you're not in resistance, you're manifesting. So it really allows you to connect with your higher self on a really deep level. So start to meditate and start to be mindful and start to really have that quiet time with yourself to be able to reflect and to hear those messages that are coming from source. Now, guys, I hope that you have really enjoyed that presentation. I am going to have to go now. My voice is getting a bit raspy and I've got to have some water, but I have loved bringing this keynote to you. As you can see, I'm really excited about it. I'm super pumped about the summit. I'm super pumped about all the talks that you're going to see. And then remember to register for the Health and Wellness Healing Summit, because we have some incredible talks there too. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in my next presentation, my next keynote, which is on mastering manifestation, where I'm actually going to be going through 10-step process to manifesting your dreams. Okay, so I will see you over there. Okay, bye.